Hey folks, this is Tron Games. Welcome to Total War Warhammer 3. Today we're going to look at kind of a getting started guide for Ikit Claw and the Skaven faction. So, one of the things to be very aware of with the Skaven is their food mechanic. Basically, the more food that you have, the better off your growth is, more kind of public order you have or control, more leadership you get for your armies. Having lots of food on hand is good. You can spend your food on things like leveling settlements up. I tend to like to try to build up a whole bunch of food and then colonize a major city using it and level it up kind of as far as I can with the food. Um, you want that food kind of getting close to the cap, but not ever actually capping out. You don't want to waste it, so it's really important to do that. Skaven also have another mechanic which is called undercities, so you can actually create, your own kind of mini settlement underneath other settlements, and these can give you certain kind of benefits or kind of options in some of those regions. Sometimes it's siphoning a little bit of food or income. In other cases, it's actually improving your army's performance in regions. Um, and Ikit's faction specifically has access to warp fuel and doom rockets, so those are really important. A single doom rocket can swing the course of a battle, so knowing when to use those doom rockets is really quite important. And then you also have Skaven corruption. Now the thing about Skaven corruption is that it doesn't actually cause attrition, so you want to actually improve the amount of Skaven corruption that you have in most areas. Gives you additional food control, things like that. It also makes basically an army ability that you can use have more charges, so you can summon clan rat units. Um, yeah, it's an important mechanic for them. I don't really ever focus on it because it tends to just happen by default. And then the Skaven have the option to use the underway, so you can actually like jump from right here over to this section without you just kind of jump over the mountains, or in this case underneath the mountains with the underway. So it's just important to be aware that that's a kind of a thing that you can do with the Skaven. So what I'm going to do here at the beginning of Ikit's campaign is Ikit starts really close to this region here. There's a couple of other Estalian cities over this direction, and there's also a Beastmen faction that kind of starts over in this area too. So what I'm going to do with Ikit to start with is I want to attack this city, but in the early stages of Ikit's campaign, fighting battles is much more important than actually um, taking over territory. So I'm going to sack this settlement, and we can go back here. You can just see what the options are. So we have the option to loot and occupy this. I don't want to do that because I want to keep beating the settlement up, but I am going to expand my undercity there just so you can see that mechanic. And then it gets there. Just give him that point. And now you can see the option of the undercity. So one of the things that I want to do early on, and you can flip through all these menus yourself, is I want to get additional food. Food is really important early on, and to be honest, this city is really, really good to just beat up on. It's really close to Skaven Blight. It's quite useful for us to do that. Ikit's initial army here is not particularly strong, but there are a couple of units you really want to pay attention to. These Ratling guns and the Jezzails are really, really powerful, so making sure that you don't lose them is important. Then what I'm also going to do here is I want Skaven Blight to grow. I want it to level up. I tend to just about always build the growth building here to start with, and it's important because the growth building actually unlocks certain plans. So I just decided to build Rattling Warrings there, which are going to unlock the ability for me to use that tech on the next turn. And here we've got Ikit doing that. You can keep him there. Because we expanded the Undercity, we can't really move with him. But Skaven Blight's a really powerful starting location for a couple of reasons. And one is that it's got a spot here right away. I'm going to select this exploitative planning, and we'll show you why in a minute, why I've selected that one. There are lots of things here. You get access to these right away, so this is something that you want to tweak as you play the campaign. I'm starting with that one to improve the Skaven corruption, generate some additional food, but this region is really quite powerful because it's really difficult for armies to move through this section, and it's kind of sheltered from a lot of the stronger factions that would actually be able to attack you. Bretonia is a particularly can be a particularly frustrating opponent, but because they just about always attack you. But the thing is, they can't jump over this, so they have to go all the way around this way, whereas you can just jump right over the mountains to get at them. This faction over here, it takes them actually 2 turns to get over here, even though it looks like it's really close. So this region is quite well defended, so it's good in that sense. Your kind of initial goals really are involving leveling Ikit up. Ikit is a very strong lord, but one of the things that we want to do really early in any campaign with Ikit Claw is you want to get a Warlock Master up and running. And one of the reasons is that Ikit has a mechanic called the Forbidden Workshop. Here you've got this kind of level 1, and you can see there are certain items that have to be completed in order to allow us to upgrade this. In Ikit's campaign, you do have to fight a battle manually in order to use a Doom Rocket, so doing that early can allow you to level up your Forbidden Workshop. It doesn't cost anything to upgrade this, but you want to do it early on. The Forbidden Workshop is quite powerful because it allows you to upgrade units. So in terms of like Rattling Guns, if I upgrade this, it costs me 3 food, it costs me 3 warp fuel, but it gives the Rattling Gun units the Endless Drum kind of piece there, which basically means they can continue to, they don't really get low on ammunition, they just keep building more of it. You can improve like the strength of different units. One thing that people sometimes don't realize is you can actually scroll down in these sections, because the first 2 you can't, but this one you actually can, so don't miss out on that. And you can only store a certain number of Doom Rockets. There are lots of different things here. I tend to just about always upgrade the Rattling Guns at the beginning because you start with a couple of units of them, and they're quite a strong unit for you. In terms of victory conditions for Ikit, Ikit wants to kill Tilia right here. That's their starting position. They only have that city. Estalia, which is these few over here. There's actually another settlement over there. And then Carcassonne, which is up here, and they actually have another city kind of up in that direction. So that's really kind of your factions that you want to focus on at the start. I tend to actually not worry about this section to start with, usually because they have another city down here, and it's useful for the pirates usually start a fight with them. So they end up a little bit distracted at the start, and you can focus on getting rid of these guys. Usually the Beastmen attack these guys too, so it can be useful just to beat on this settlement a whole bunch at the start to level your lord up and kind of start your campaign off that way. Now, a big thing to watch out for at the beginning is I have had some campaigns where the Beastmen actually attack me really early on. So if your army is a little bit weak, this can be a bit of a concern. Just being aware, so you can see actually the Beastmen got right in there and they took that settlement right away. The Beastmen don't like these guys generally, so usually this faction isn't a huge amount of trouble to get rid of. And that's why leveling up Ikit early is really good. You can get a lot of extra experience for your lord just beating on this settlement. So I don't worry about expanding too quick at the beginning. And what I'm going to do here is, Ikit's kind of close. And we want to start leveling up a Warlock Master because one of the things that we can get there. Let's move Ikit back over here. We want to level this up because getting one of these guys to level 15 is one of the criteria for leveling up your Forbidden Workshop, actually. You can't see it, but when you get to these higher levels, it's one of the criteria. So it's important to do that. Here, I like to increase the mobility of my armies, and then Ikit's army to start with. Usually what I end up doing is just recruiting some of these guys. They're pretty cheap. They're decent. You might think that the clan rats are better, but Ikit's army is really quite good with weapons teams and ranged units. So early on, I tend to just make these guys because they're just so cheap. So we'll make a few of them. And then got a couple of other things just to look at here off the start. So you start with this one, gives you additional recruitment. But then here you can actually get casualty replenishment rate. You can improve Skaven slaves. Skaven slaves are really cheap. Often it's really good actually to fill one of these armies with Skaven slaves because they just don't cost that much. And they're kind of good fodder for battles. One of the things with Ikit's campaign is that you get additional construction cost removed from engineering buildings. That's important in the later game as you get access to those. But one of the things that you want to get upgraded as quick as possible is this building. It's one of the reasons why I just about always build the growth building, because this gives you access to Jezzails, Rattling Guns, and Warpfire Throwers. Jezzails and Rattling Guns are some of the Skaven's strongest units. And then later on, you'll want to go for more of their artillery units. So you actually have, here's one of their engineering buildings. It unlocks Plague Claw catapults, which are extremely good. Later on, Warp Lightning cannons. And then some people like Doom Wheels and Doom Flayers and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan. But Plague Claw catapults are particularly good. So quite useful there to get access to that shortly after getting to level 3. And so that is kind of a very brief overview of the beginning strategy for Ikit Claw. It's kind of all I've got for this one, so if you like the content, feel free to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel for more in the future. Thanks for watching.